There we are. How are you? I made it on time today. Oh my gosh, I think this is the first time I've been on time to one of my live streams. Didn't have time to eat yet. It's what time is it? It's now it's 1:31. But I thought it was so funny as I was my brother-in-law Dennis, is my husband's twin. My husband is Dean Wayne Boyd, and his twin is Dennis Allen Boyd. And, that indicates all the people who are related. Just thought it was so funny. He brought down he thinks he's Santa Claus, and he gets bread for really cheap at the bread store where, when they're throwing it away, and then he hands it out he gets credit for giving people things. I guess he just thinks that he gets some kind of bonus points or something for giving it to everybody. And he's been bringing us a lot of this brand lately. Dave's Killer Bread. I know I was trying to go low carb for a long time. I never lost very much weight at all doing low carb and eating. I really enjoyed eating all the fat that's on low carb diets, but yeah, it didn't help me lose weight. I'm really convinced that the key to my weight loss will be exercise. I am active to some extent, walking dogs and taking care of Elizabeth, and that keeps my weight down. I know it does, and I know that's the key to unlock my weight loss is physical activity. Got to step it up so that it gets to the level where I lose, not just maintain this weight that I am now, but lose it and go down to a lower weight. Anyway, I'm going to be putting some green cheese on my bagel. I know this is fattening. I know it's going to cause me to gain weight, but I don't care. I feel when I'm stressed, I don't care. Okay. Pretty soon I will start going to the gym. I have a gym membership I don't use, and I will start using it one day soon. I will when I'm ready. Just haven't been ready up until now. Okay. I really do think Bryan Kohberger has access to the internet. That's David. His true identity is David, my ex-boyfriend David Wayne Craig, and I really do think that he's watching these live streams and telling me, hurry up. David always had deadlines. If I didn't make the deadline, it was hell to pay. And I'd always tell him, why? What are these deadlines? Why do I have to do this by a certain time, by a certain date and time? I don't understand why there's a deadline. And he would never be able to tell me. And it was almost like he was indicating that, he has told me that, I believe it was when I was DRUGGED with date RAPEDRUGS, that he told me that he hears voices and everything. He's kind of alluded to it when I've been conscious. And this one time, I just felt like there was some voice telling him he had to do something I had to do something by a certain date or else. And I think that's when he killed me. I think I missed the deadline, and his voice told me he had to kill me. And he poisoned me with a deadly a burrito with deadly sauce that he delivered to my that he delivered to my cottage in Glendale in I guess it was 2002, and told me to not feed it to the dog, do not share it with the dogs. I had two dogs, but Ollie and Paige 2. I named another dog prior to her, Paige, and this was Paige 2. They were two little dogs. One was a Chihuahua mix, which was Paige 2, and Ollie, we don't know what he was. You know, I used to think he was a pure silky terrier, but he doesn't look like a pure silky terrier. He looks like he's a silky terrier mix. And, you know, he was a cute little guy. And David loved him very much. I fed it to the dogs because I thought, oh, they won't eat it if it's poison. They did eat it, and so I thought it was okay to eat, and I ate it, and I died, and they died, and I escaped to Las Vegas, and, you know, and I took my bird to, and she ended up dying later, but, yeah, I rescued that bird. Bella was her name. She was originally named Purdy, and it was the bird of David's niece, and who actually died in last year on 9/4. And yeah, the poor bird was totally neglected, and I rescued her, and I loved her, and she loved me. And then when I was no longer around, she died, is what I heard. Oh, I didn't toast it enough. Oh well, I like it crispier. I haven't eaten yet. I'm just running, doing this and running. All right, this will have to do. I prefer it much crispier. What a waste. I was trying to get started on time today. All right, well, anyway, let's get started. I'm not going to dilly-dally too long here. I got to read this. I feel like I have a deadline. I don't know if Bryan Kohberger has access to live streams. You know, I bet you he's not allowed to post anything or communicate directly with anyone, but he can look. I mean, maybe it's secret. Maybe nobody else has that privilege, but David, as Bryan Kohberger, does. This is water. Kangen water. Maybe he does because he's got, like, you know, special privileges due to his security clearance, you know, like, because he's part of the government. Nobody knows it, but I'm sure his legal team does. And that's probably why he's getting so many resources, right, dedicated to him and his team. Because he's a U.S. employee. I really think he's watching, and he's like, you know, he's putting pressure on me to get this done before the deadline being Monday, the day he's supposed to come up with an alibi, which he doesn't have. He has to manufacture one. I don't know what he's going to do. Maybe he'll take off his mask live. Well, it won't be live because we won't see the footage until the end of the day, because there is no live feed in the courtroom, right? It's everybody, you know, there are reporters and families in the courtroom, and they see it live, but we won't see it until after the fact. David, you know, that would be some dramatic TV if you were to rip off your disguise on camera. That would be some really interesting TV. And if I get, and I'll get this manifesto done. This is a beautiful book. This is a book. This is not, I mean, I know it's supposed to be a manifesto, and I'm sure the end of it makes it a manifesto. But, you know, I'm going to get through this, and, you know, if I do by Sunday, by 11:59 a.m. Eastern, I want you to take off your disguise live on air. I mean, it won't be live for us at home, but in front of the cameras in the courtroom. I want you to do that. Will you do that for me? Reveal your true identity. Oh, the girls will love it. All those girls who are devoted to Bryan Kohberger. Oh, wait till they find out that he's even more gorgeous than they think. Of course, a little older. But I know you still look good, David. I know you still look good. You don't look 69. You look like, you know, maybe 50. something like that. Handsome, rugged 50 years old probably is how you look. I don't know. I haven't seen you for years, but you always look good. So just do it. It'll be such great TV. It'll be the TV moment of the millennium if you do that. It will. Do it. Do it. Okay. I'm going to finish and you're going to do that. Okay? That's the deal. If I do this for you, you got to do that for me. All right? And I'm excited. That'll be great. I will be, you will make me so happy if you do that. Okay. All right. Manifesto. Here we go. A little swig of coffee. It's like lukewarm. I don't mind. I like cold coffee. 11 years old is where we stopped off in. So we're hitting puberty, okay? We're about to hit puberty if we're not there yet. Wait. Where'd it go? Okay, what page? 23. Yeah, I was at 21, I think. Maybe not. That's 21. 2, 23. Yeah, it's past that. There we are. And it's page 26. Okay. 11 years old. The trip to France and England began shortly after my birthday. We had been talking about it for a while at Father's house, and I was really excited to go. So I guess they planned a trip. Okay, so it was his 11th birthday. The trip. Okay, he didn't mention this before now. Okay. Okay, we traveled on Virgin Atlantic. Upper class. Ooh, nice. I never traveled upper class with my family. I was extremely enthusiastic about this as I always loved luxury and opulence. Opulence. Okay. All right, let's make a note of it. No, my family never traveled first class. I don't. When my parents went on vacation by themselves, I don't know if it was a business trip. They didn't tell us if they traveled first class. I mean, I know when we went to England, you know, we had limousines and stuff. Yeah, and that was part of business. The business trip is what I understood at the time. Okay. We stopped by in England. Oh, and it was England. Okay. We stopped by in England for a couple of days to say hello to Grandma Jinx. The cousins weren't there. They were already in France, so it was a bit boring. When we arrived in France, the feeling of wonder and curiosity swept over me as it always did when I visited a foreign country. The last time I was in France, I was only a few weeks old. Okay, that was quite a while before. This was the first time I was able to truly experience the country. France was a whole different world, and it was a world that I liked. Okay, French culture is so exquisite and refined compared to American culture. Okay. After booking a couple of rooms at a small inn near the town of Toulouse, or Toulouse, because there's an E at the end. We met up with Johnny and cousins, not apostrophe, that's an error. That's a typo. And the cousins, yeah, no apostrophe S, at Aunt Jenny's house. Aunt Jenny is my father's sister, and she lives in France. And the last time I saw her was when I lived in England before the move to America. She had a few kittens in her house that I loved to play with. George and I immediately resumed our friendship that started in the spring. There was a vast forested area surrounding the house. George told me there were lots of wild boars in the forest, so we went wild boar hunting. It was just a game, and we never ended up seeing any boars at all, but the suspense of possibly finding one was what made it fun. Okay, he likes suspense. We stayed in Toulouse. Toulouse. I don't know how to say that. Toulouse. 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 I don't know. I'm trying to be French about it, but I don't know. For about a week. And then we said goodbye to the relatives and set off to tour the country. We toured many cultural towns and stayed in castle-style hotels. This should have been a great experience for me, but my conflicts with Sumaya soured it. There were a few incidents in which she punished me by making me stay in my hotel room while she, father, and Georgia all went out to dinner at a restaurant. I hated her for this. That's terrible. I don't know. When you're on vacation, it's different. You know, you should just suspend the rules temporarily until you get home. You know, that's wrong. On the way back, we stopped at Grandma Jinx's house in England for a week. The cousins were there this time, and it was a lot of fun. We all slept in one room, so it was like having one big sleepover. One day, we went on a trip to a museum where I had an argument with Sumaya. She shouted at me in front of George and threatened to punish me. This was so embarrassing that I fell into a miserable mood for the rest of the day. I always loved traveling, but I learned that traveling with Sumaya just ruins the whole experience. Wow. And this wouldn't be the last time I would be forced to travel with Sumaya either, to my utmost dismay. Oh, goodness. The trip lasted 3 weeks in length. Yeah, that's quite a while. The perfect length, usually our trips were like 2 weeks or 10 days. Yeah, that was the big magic number for our family, 10 days. The perfect length of time for a vacation, in my opinion. Yeah, I think that's when you really get to take in everything without rushing around. I quite enjoyed it, if I don't count the times Sumaya ruined it. Okay, wow. Puts it all on her. Doesn't take responsibility for his own behavior. I wonder what she did. He doesn't go into it. It felt nice to be back home after a long cultural vacation. At Father's house, my nanny, Tracy, got into an argument with Father, and she was forced to leave. Oh, that's too bad. I was sad to see her go. Yeah, she had a nice relationship with the kids. It's too bad. She was always pleasant and fun to be around. Once Tracy left, Georgia and I would no longer have any nannies. Yeah, they were getting older. We were getting too old for it. I wasn't a little child anymore. Having nannies became a thing of the past. From now on, if Father and Sumaya had to go out to a dinner party, they would just hire a babysitter to look after us. And soon I would be old enough to stay by myself in the house. So at this point, he's 11. Okay. I was babysitting at 12. So, and I was left alone as a kid too. Obviously, we know that because when I was 9, I was home alone when I was mislabeled a threat to national security by a delusional idiot. The doctor of delusion, I call him. Yeah. So, yeah, I was left alone a lot. So, I don't know. I mean, evening is evening. You know, I guess nighttime can be scary for kids. But I think they would have left me by myself at 11 years old. I got a haircut, and this time I decided not to bleach my hair blonde. The black hair always grew out anyway, so the full blonde look only lasted for a couple of weeks. Having blonde hair seemed to have lost its spark, so I just didn't bother with it anymore. The summer was pleasant and relaxing, but it quickly came to an end. The time for middle school had come. My fear of this day haunted the back of my mind all summer. I was enrolled at Pinecrest Middle School for 6th grade. I had mixed feelings about going to this school because I didn't like my experience there during kindergarten. Right, he had earlier been there. Father said it's the best option for me because it was a small private school. I didn't want to go to a large school like Hale Middle School. That would have been too overwhelming for me. On the first day, I was shaking with anxiety and fear. I didn't know what to expect. Transitioning to middle school was a big deal for me, even more so than starting elementary school. I was much older and I cared more about what people thought of me. He seemed to have cared a lot all along, in my opinion. I was no longer an innocent little child who didn't have to worry. I had to worry about a lot of things, and oh, did I worry! It was a whole new school full of people I didn't know. They all previously went to elementary school together, so most of them already knew each other. Yeah, and he was the odd man out, right? He was left out because he had gone to a different school. Oh, maybe his parents should have thought of that, knowing how sensitive he is. That made me even more nervous. The only person I knew who was going to Pinecrest was a geeky kid named Nate Grossman, who I didn't really interact with that much in Topanga. I also felt an intense fear of what middle school life would be like. I didn't know how to act around girls. I didn't know what was cool anymore. He was always around girls, though, right? I mean, it wasn't like he went to an all-boys school. I mean, that can be a problem. I know a couple guys who went to all-boys school, and I question whether that was the best choice for them, honestly. I really do think kids need to interact with the opposite sex early on, because if they don't do that enough, they don't know how to treat them later. You know, I know having a sister is different, you know. I'm just thinking about it. One of those guys didn't have a sister. Yeah, and that's the worst. And he is the worst. Yeah. Yeah. I stand by what I just said. Okay. I didn't know how to act around girls. I didn't know what was cool anymore. I had no friends there. I simply didn't know what to do. I felt like I was walking into a snowstorm without a coat. Wow. My parents led me into the school to say goodbye, and then it was time for me to start my first class. I had to take multiple classes with different teachers now. This was also a new concept for me, and it made me extremely uncomfortable. Since this was a private school, I had to wear a uniform, something I hadn't done since going to Dorset House in England. I thought of this as a good thing, though. I didn't have to worry about what I would have to wear on the first day. Yeah, that's one good part of it. I never had to wear a uniform. I always went to public schools myself. For the first few days, I withdrew into a defensive shell and didn't really talk to anyone. I did observe, however. I observed how everyone acted, who the cool kids were, what they were like, and it was all so intimidating. The social challenges that I faced in 5th grade were intensified tenfold. Okay. I noticed that there were 2 groups of cool, popular kids. There were the skateboarder kids, which he would have fit right into, right? Such as Vinny Maggio, Aston Moyo, Daryl West, and Alex Dibb. And then there were the boys who were popular with girls, including Vincent, Robert Morgan, and Orrin Axe. They all seemed so confident and aggressive. So, oh, whoops, I gotta plug this in. Oops. I've had my computer unplugged all day. Oh, and it's just now saying, oh, I'm getting low. All right. I didn't know I had it unplugged. Okay. There you go. Let me take a bite. Okay. They all seem so confident and aggressive. Like, aggressive has to do with confident. There's a relation there. Okay. I felt so intimidated by them, and I hated them for it. I hated them so much, but I had to increase my standing with them. I wanted to be friends with them. Wow. He hated them. Why did he hate them? I mean, where did this intensity come from? Why did he hate them for being... I mean, where does that come from? I also observed the girls. I was still very short for my age, and most of the girls were taller than me. Okay. That happens to a lot of kids. You're not alone. I hadn't reached puberty yet. Yeah, you were a later bloomer than some of the kids. But I was starting to admire female prettiness, the very beginnings. Okay. There was one group of pretty popular girls, and they all seemed to like hanging out with that boy, Robert Morgan. I didn't yet desire girls sexually, but I still felt envy towards Robert for being able to attract the attention of all the popular girls. What was so special about Robert Morgan? I constantly asked myself. Okay. I thought all of the cool kids were obnoxious jerks, but I tried as best as I could to hide my disgust and appear cool to them. Why were they so obnoxious? Why aren't you just admiring them? Where's all this hate and disgust coming from? They were obnoxious jerks, and yet somehow it was these boys who all of the girls flocked to. Okay, so they really were obnoxious jerks? Okay. Really? All of them? This showed me that the world was a brutal place, and human beings were nothing more than savage animals. Oh, gosh. Everything my father taught me was proven wrong. He raised me to be a polite, kind gentleman. Good for him. In a decent world, that would be ideal. But the polite, kind gentleman doesn't win in the real world. That is not true. They may not win right now, but they win in the end, I think. In a decent world, that would be ideal. Okay. The girls don't flock to gentlemen. Young, immature girls, maybe you're right. I don't know, but the gentleman wins them in the end, I believe. They flock to the alpha male. It's not as simple as that, but I don't know. They flock to the boys who appear to have the most power and status. I know when I was a young girl, I was just scoping out the cute... Well, when I was in middle school, it doesn't seem like I was interested in the cutest guys. Well, I think I was in elementary school. I mean, Robbie McCool. There was a Michael, somebody with light blonde hair. Those were my elementary school guys, and then later, I don't know. I shouldn't be like saying names, should I? So I won't. I know they're like, please don't mention my name, please. Okay. There were a couple guys. I really think my first date in 6th grade, the guy actually looked like my father. I didn't even realize that at the time. He was French, and he sort of resembled my father. I didn't even know it at the time. I was totally unconscious of that. He didn't wear glasses, but he was like I don't know, he might have been related to him. Us. And I really liked Jewish guys, too. I really dug Jewish guys. I don't know why. It was totally subconscious. Totally. I did not plan it. I was just drawn to them. And I didn't grow up Jewish at all. even though I am part Jewish by blood. I didn't know I was part Jewish by blood. I just knew I was drawn to Jewish guys. Or, I don't know, maybe Jewish guys were drawn to me too. But then, like, I had a friend of mine, you know, well, not a friend, an acquaintance of mine in it was in middle school, who commented on how ugly a guy at summer camp was that I was so obsessed with and raved about every chance I got. She thought he was so ugly. And she told everybody he was really ugly, and she got a picture of, I didn't even have a picture of his cabin, and she did, and she's like, look at how ugly he is. I don't know. And she knows who she is. As I'm telling you this story, she knows exactly who she is. And she was in my 5th grade class when I first moved to Princeton. But we were in middle school, and she went to, you know, I had such a great time at Northeast Music Camp that I raved about it, and, you know, and then she ended up going in 8th grade. I went in 8th grade, and I came home and was so thrilled and loved it. And so the orchestra teacher recommended it because Claire had such a great time, and she went to my summer music camp, and yeah, she brought home a picture of my boyfriend, and oh, he's so ugly. So in high school, I started realizing, okay, I gotta like focus on the cute guys. Okay, I don't know. I mean, you know, in 8th grade, I think the guy I liked was really kind of cute, but he wore glasses, but yeah, then I started like, okay, I gotta like, you know, focus on the cute guys. Okay, you know, it was really because she totally humiliated me that I started thinking, okay, I gotta think about who I'm going for here and go for the cute ones. I didn't even give it a thought. I just was doing, you know, I was just randomly drawn to certain men, and they weren't always cute. But after she humiliated me like that, I started saying, okay, I gotta focus on cute guys only. And that's what I did. And yeah, and that's when my life got so bad. It's the cute alpha males. I don't know if I don't think I ever really liked alpha males. Maybe because I'm an alpha female on some level. I don't like them. They always want to control me, and I'm not interested in being controlled. Never have been. You know, I like I don't know what you call them. I like the softer men, the more sensitive man. I think I kind of went for the wrong. My high school sweetheart was kind of the wrong kind of guy for me, honestly. I mean, I guess he wasn't really aggressive, so I guess that didn't exactly make him an alpha male, but he was close. He was probably the closest to an alpha male as I ever dated, and he was the guy who broke my heart the most of anyone, really. Yeah, I guess so, huh? Yeah. All right. I'm sorry to veer off topic, but you know, this is what this manifesto is for me to it's to trigger me. It's to cue me to talk about certain subject matter about my life. Okay? Okay. Okay, he's talking about the girls. They don't flock to the gentleman. They flock to the alpha male. They flock to the boys who appear to have the most power and status. That is not me. I don't do that. Okay? And it was a ruthless struggle to reach such a height. Figuratively and literally, probably, in his mind, huh? Yeah. Yeah. He's kind of like simplifying it too much. It's not that straightforward, and you know, it's not every girl that's impressed with that. It's just maybe it's a lot of girls, but the ones you really want aren't like that. I don't know. I think there's girls that you'd rather go out with who are not impressed with that kind of bullshit. But, he doesn't want to believe that. He wants to believe it's just, this is his philosophy, and he doesn't want to believe anything else, it looks like. Okay. It was too much for me to handle. I was still a little boy with a fragile mind. Thinking about such things would only crush my innocence, and it eventually will, but not at this point. I subconsciously wanted to enjoy my childhood as much as I could, so I tried not to think about this new revelation and enjoy life in the moment. I put it all aside to be pondered over later. Wow. Really sad to look at it this way. Okay. My whole world had changed. The cool thing to do now was to be popular with girls. I didn't know how to go about doing that. Skateboarding, I was able to do. Dressing well, that was simple. But attracting attention from girls, how in the blazes was I going to do that? I didn't even understand what was so special about it either, but everyone seemed to place so much importance on it. This made me even more shy, and I became known as the shy new kid. Okay. Thankfully, some kids started reaching out to me, and I had a few chances to integrate within a couple of weeks. The first boy to talk to me was Bryce Miller. He asked me if I had any friends at the school because he always saw me alone. I admitted that I had no friends, and he offered to be my first friend. I was very grateful for this. That sounds like a nice guy. Once again, I used skateboarding as a way to increase my standing, telling the skateboarder kids that I knew how to skateboard and that I could do some tricks. This got them to treat me more cordially. I even talked to Robert Morgan a few times, who I hated and yet subconsciously revered for being so popular. There's nothing wrong with admiring somebody for something you struggle with. I mean, he does something well that you don't. I don't know why it's such a problem for you. Over time you can study him and emulate what works, and maybe it would work for you. I mean, I don't know why he has to get so angry about it. Whenever a so-called popular kid would say a word to me or give me a high five, I felt immense satisfaction. Okay, good. It was just so important to him, and that's a recipe for disaster. Inevitably, I started to become known to the girls of my school, and surprisingly, they treated me quite well. Good. It was a huge relief. Middle school would be the last time in my life where I wouldn't be completely invisible to girls. Okay. All of the pretty girls had a peculiar habit of hugging boys they knew as a form of greeting. Yeah. And some of them hugged me. Oh, I didn't understand why, but it felt like the best feeling ever. I was 100 times more satisfied from getting a hug from a pretty girl than getting a high five from a popular boy. It was a new experience that enraptured every fiber of my being. Oh my God. The 7th and 8th grade girls were especially kind to me. He's in 6th grade at this point, so the older women really dug him. Okay. I guess they thought I was cute in a boyish sort of way. This made my initial experience of middle school much better. He's a very cute kid. I mean, I don't understand why he just feels like such an outcast. I decided to attend the school dance in early October. A school dance was completely foreign to me. Elementary schools didn't have them, of course, and I only knew about them from watching typical American shows on television. I thought it was something I had to do in order to be cool. I was very nervous naturally, but I pushed myself to go ahead with it. When I got there, Robert Morgan saw me and asked me if I wanted to hang out with his group. Oh, that's cool. I was grateful for this, and I ended up having a nice time. I was shocked that some 7th and 8th grade girls offered to dance with me. Ooh. They came up to me in a group and taught me how to slow dance. I had to place my hands on their hips while they placed their hands on my shoulders, and we would move slowly with the music. They were all taller than me, and I was terrified, but it felt so good. That would be the only time in my life where I would have a satisfying experience with girls. The only time. I can't believe that. That's terrible. But that is a very exciting time, I admit. It was a very exciting time for me. I don't know. Is David trying to get me to talk about my middle school years? I mean, what? Am I supposed to, like, does nobody believe I'm me and I have to talk about my middle school years? I don't want to take too much time. I want to read through this thing. I want to get it done. But okay, in middle school, I dreamt of the dances. I couldn't wait for them to happen because I was so excited going to the dances. I was a great dancer, and the boys all wanted to dance with me, and it was so much fun. And I mean, the first time I slow danced, oh my gosh. You know, guys I didn't know liked me, wanted to slow dance with me. It was really exciting. I was very popular with the boys growing up. And girls, not so much with the girls, just the boys. And I don't know. I don't know if any of them were coming to my house, you know, thanks to my father, the Zodiac killer. But I just know, yeah, I had a great time at the dances. I couldn't wait for them. I dreamt of the day, and I dreamt of the dance floor. And I loved freestyle, the dancing. And, I was really good at it. What can I say? And, yeah, so I always had, I'm trying to think, did I always have a date for the dance? Not really. In 6th grade, that was like a brand new experience, the dance, I waited to grow up to go to a dance. Yeah, it wasn't until later that you had dates to the dance. I'm thinking about 8th grade and how the guy I had a romantic friendship with in the crowd, he had ditched me. His father was coming to my house, and raping me, and I was blocking it out, so I didn't have any memory of his father doing that to me. I just know I didn't like him, and I guess on some level I did recognize him and knew he was involved in that stuff that I was putting away in the back of my mind. And I was in denial, maybe. I didn't remember everything that he thought I remembered, because my father, before he arrived to my house, this is a neighbor of mine, okay? This guy that I ended up having a romantic friendship with, we were a couple in the crowd. I joined the crowd, I guess at the end of 7th grade, because I heard that he liked me, and we were a couple when I was in 8th grade, and he lived down the street from me, and we'd have get-togethers and stuff, parties, at different people's houses in the crowd, and he'd have, I remember a particular party at his house, when his father, like, right in front of me, said, I think that this girl would, be, I like her, and you should like her, and her last name was Eastwood. And I always asked her, oh, are you related to Clint Eastwood? She goes, no, not that Eastwood. That's a different Eastwood. And little did I remember, I didn't know that I was related to Clint Eastwood myself, that I'm actually the daughter of Clint Eastwood. I didn't remember that in those days. I had no memory back then. But that's really interesting that Daddy or somebody planned to have somebody with the same last name in the crowd. And that was the girl that the guy I was coupled with in the crowd. We got best looking, by the way, and I don't know what else we got. We got different things. What they do in the yearbook and stuff. We did it in our crowd of people. The crowd. Anyway, his father led him over to this other girl, and from then on, he ditched me. He did what his father wanted him to do, and I was heartbroken. I was devastated. It was so difficult for me, and I didn't understand why his father was doing that. And, on some level, it was subconscious. I understood subconsciously, but I didn't understand cautiously because I'd already put it away in my mind. I didn't know what he was doing and why he didn't like me. Little did I know he was coming over to my house, and he had a thing with me, and I didn't remember because I blocked it all out. And I guess he thought I wasn't. I was okay for him to have something with, but I wasn't suitable to be his son's relationship or whatever, girlfriend, whatever. And so he kind of guided him to another girl, and, like the faithful son, this guy did what his father wanted him to do, and he would live to regret that. Okay, I'll point out, because he devastated me. I just didn't understand why it happened. I was a good person. He was talking about other parties, and I'm like, what other parties? I like these parties. What are you talking about? He was talking about what was happening at my house when I guess, I don't know, somebody would bring him over, and, he would have an inappropriate sexual interaction with me. And, I didn't have a choice. I didn't know what was going on. I was blocking it out. And he was trying to tell the party about these other parties I went to, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I honestly didn't know what he was talking about. And he was like trying to inform the party that I had other parties to go to, and that, that this was probably a very boring party for me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? These are the parties I like to go to, and then he guided his son to another girl and devastated me. And I was so humiliated, and I didn't know what he was doing and why he was doing it. I was so confused, because I had blocked it all out. I really, honestly, I know people have a really hard time understanding this. I honestly I blocked things out to cope, to grow up normally. I had to block that stuff out. If I had carried that around in my conscious mind, oh yeah, my romantic, my boyfriend's father just RAPED yesterday evening. I couldn't walk around knowing that. I had to block it out. That's how I survived my childhood, okay? I would never have survived had I remembered anything. I had to put it away, just like Daddy taught me when I was a baby, okay? He taught me how to do this, and I got so good at it, I didn't even know I was doing it. And that's why, it was like hypnotizing myself. I wanted to believe that I had a normal life, and I was determined to have a normal life because I wanted to grow up normally, and this is what Daddy taught me to do. I was determined to have a normal life and be normal. I was not going to let anyone steal my life away at the time. You know, obviously it feels like they've stolen it away at this point, but you know what I mean. I was determined to have a normal childhood, a normal teenagehood, you know. I mean, it wasn't normal, but I grew up as normally as possible, despite all the abuse and torture. And I said a word I shouldn't have said, but you know, hopefully I won't be too penalized here. So yeah, so that, you know, this is like just a little sampling of what I had to deal with growing up. Okay, these sick adults, you know, and it's like, you know, what about me? I mean, you're putting it on me. You're blaming me and telling me I'm not suitable for your son, but I'm just fine to use for your own sick purposes. Yeah, it's just fine. And it's okay that my father's using me for his sick purposes. I mean, why wasn't anyone reporting my parents or my father or helping me? You know, oh, it's okay. She can do that, but my son's not going to do that. Oh, you know, I grew up with, when I moved to Princeton, I became good friends with a girl whose parents, she was from Poland originally, or her family was from Poland, and her parents really liked me a lot, and I was a lot more outgoing than their daughter, and they thought I was a really good influence on her. You know, they thought maybe I could help her come out of her shell socially or whatever. And they loved bringing me on vacation wherever they went, and I was happy to go. But there was another little girl who used to be the little girl they took on vacation before I moved to town, and her you know, she was very disappointed that she wasn't asked to go on vacation anymore since I had gotten to town, and her mother was very upset about this as well, and complained, and they like, I'm sorry, but you know, we just think Claire's a really good influence on her, and you know, it's no offense. I mean, we'll take your daughter sometimes, but we really like, you know, I don't know what they told her. I just know that, you know, this little girl's, I mean, we were all the same age. We were all little girls. I was in the middle of fifth grade when I moved to Princeton. And she lived down the street from me on Riverside Drive, and the other little girl lived on the other side of Riverside Drive. She lived on one end, and she lived on the other, and I lived in the middle. And yeah, so she was always complaining about her daughter being left out since I came to town. And I think they tried to include her sometimes, but they really liked me. And then one day, this little girl, you know, the little girl who was left out, her father was brought to my house. Well, after the Zodiac killer, my father drugged me with, not date, rapedrugs, but with the other, you know, usually it was, I think that's probably why the boy's father, you know, the boy I had, I'm sorry, I'm trying not to use names, so I know it's confusing. The neighbor who's, you know, the boy who was my neighbor, whose father was trying to divert him away from me. Why was I going into that? I believe the reason why he thought I remembered everything is because I was under the influence of the sex, drug, which made it look like I had a certain behavior that I didn't, because I was under the influence. It was like ecstasy. Anyone who has ever taken that drug, a drug, would know you can't control your behavior. You have no inhibitions. None. And I didn't like that father at all, and I did not cooperate at all. I did not enjoy that at all. But if I liked you under the influence of that drug, I I was enjoying myself, you know, as a little girl. It's sad. But, yeah, I hated that father. And, you know, it wasn't fun. I did not act like I was enjoying any minute of that. But I guess that was something he got off on. I don't know. And, but he thought I remembered because I was awake and, you know, but no, I had wiped it out. I didn't want to think about it. And, but I realized I did remember it for a little time before I blocked it out, because that little girl's father came over and he was shocked and left immediately and told his wife, and she was in horrors and told the parents of the other little girl what had happened, and they couldn't believe it. And, you know, and then but the father decided to ask me about it, and he did, and I don't know, I think I denied it. But then he was invited over to my house, and I liked that father. And because I was under the influence of that DRUG, I was like, hey, I like you, you know. And he, you know, I was all naked, and he was horrified, and he immediately left. And then when I saw him again, he talked to me about it, and he said, are you okay? You know, I saw, you know, or I don't know what it was. I remember at a certain point I don't know what he said, but I gave him a look like I did when he arrived to our house while I was under the influence. It was kind of like he was asking if that, I gave him the same look, and he was like, oh my God, you know, and I still kind of remembered it. And I don't know, maybe I was semi-conscious, and, you know, I was a child, okay? Their brains are not fully formed, and I don't believe children, I mean, I was, how old was I? It was middle school, so I know I was in sixth grade, so seventh grade? Yeah, I mean, I think I was like 12 or so. Yeah, I think I was 12. And my brain is still in development. And so I wasn't in control of my behavior like I am today as a 57-year-old woman. So I didn't know why I did certain things. I was subconsciously, you know, I was just acting out, you know, subconsciously doing things that I didn't understand because I wasn't fully formed yet. I wasn't fully me yet. And yeah, I guess I just gave him a window into, I don't know, and he became alarmed, and he realized, oh my gosh, you know, and he's like, are you okay? You know, do I need to contact the authorities? I want to ask you, you know, if you're okay. And I told him I was fine. And he's like, do you want me to go to the police? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I can handle it. And he's like, okay, I know that's not a typical father. Most fathers would go straight to the police, but I believe he's from Vega, and which is a civilization that has a different philosophy and a different way of looking at everything than we do here on Earth. I know that sounds really trippy and wild. He was from Poland. A lot of people from Vega are from different countries. They tend to prefer Europe because people are not as uptight sexually. In Vega, everybody has sex with everybody, okay? Not children, though, okay? Children with children, adults with adults. It is taboo to ever even look at a child inappropriately in Vega. And this is what all the PEDOPHILES misunderstand about Vega. Okay, yes, everybody's sexual. Yes, they're into group sex and all that. But never, ever, ever do adults intermingle with children that way. Ever. They are killed. They are instantly killed if they even, even entertain such a notion. And the computers know their thoughts and everything. I know that sounds wild. But no, they separate people that are deviant in their behavior, and if they have to be killed, they have to be killed, because in Vega they consider sexual abuse to be equivalent to murder. And it is. You are murdering that child if you cross that line. And so this guy from that other civilization was like, they see, you know, they don't want to interfere in our culture too much. You know, they see, they're able to be more neutral than we are here, those of us born here. And, you know, they evaluate the situation, and, you know, I'm sure he was given information about me as well. And so he let me decide if he was going to go to authorities. And I said, no, I'm fine. I can handle it. I remember saying, I can handle it. He's like, are you sure? Okay. And he said, look, now that I've witnessed what I have to, you can't see my daughter anymore. Okay. Because I have to protect her from that. Okay. I really like you. It's nothing personal to you. And I'm sorry, you know, I have a responsibility as her father. And I just want you to understand that it's nothing personal to you. And I told him I understand. And from then on, that little girl was no longer my friend. And her older sister, who was jealous of me for whatever reason, I don't know, I don't know, maybe I made her feel like her older sister had a big nose, and I was always telling my friend to push up her nose. You know, when we'd be on the yacht, you know, together, you know, the boat or whatever, they had a boat or something. It was really a yacht. And, you know, I guess Agnes, I'm sorry. She didn't have a friend with her. I don't remember her being with a friend exactly. And I wasn't trying. I mean, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make her feel bad or anything. I didn't tell her. I wasn't mean to her. But I guess the influence I had on her family and their father, you know, especially their father, made her resent me somehow. And when this happened and I was removed from her sister's life, she didn't let me hear the end of it in high school, and she would accuse me of being a prostitute, and she didn't see anything, she didn't know anything, she didn't understand the situation, and it was really humiliating and horrible for me. And I was like, you weren't there, you don't know. And I remember there was, you know, a fellow classmate, a guy who I used to have the biggest crush on in 7th grade. He was there, and I remember he was standing there in the halls of Princeton High School, observing my conversation with this girl, the older sister of my friend, who was accusing me of being a prostitute. I'm like, you don't know, you weren't there, you know. I am not any such thing, you know. You know, and he wanted to understand, like, what is, you know, what is going on. You know, and I probably didn't help him understand what was going on from what I told her, because I didn't really know how he would know. At the time when I was standing in the halls of PHS, Princeton High School, explaining to this little girl's older sister that I wasn't a prostitute, I didn't know why this guy who was standing there, who had witnessed something at my house, why he was so interested in hearing my answer and understanding what was going on in my life. I didn't understand. I just knew he knew stuff, but I didn't actually remember him at my house when we were standing in the hallway of Princeton High School, and I was trying to defend myself against this older sister of this girl I was no longer allowed to be friends with. Yeah. And, you know, I know he thought I did remember, but I didn't actually remember. And it's hard for me. I can understand how confusing it was for everybody around me, because it was confusing for me. Maybe I would remember sometimes and then I wouldn't remember the next moment. You know, it was very confusing for me. That was the only way I coped. And yeah, it wasn't normal, because it wasn't normal what was being done to me. I shouldn't have survived. Do you know how humiliating it is to be, drugged before boys are brought to your house, classmates of yours that you have to see at school the next morning? They're brought to your house, and you're naked, and you're forced to be intimate and with their fathers, with them, and then you have to go to school the next morning and face them. And the way I dealt with it, I mean, so I would remember for a little while, and then it would go away. It took a little time. There was a little window of time that I had to pass before it would be out of my memory. And yeah, right away I would remember, and I would just act like nothing. I would just act like we acted the previous day, like nothing had happened. This is how I coped. I mean, how else could I have coped? I had to push those experiences out of my consciousness so I could operate and go to school every day and, be as normal a little young girl as I could be. And nobody understood what I was going through, except for the people who witnessed bits and pieces. And even they, well, I guess they understand, right? I mean, at least they had a little idea. But the girls hated me, and they, there were so many rumors about me, and of course there are going to be rumors. I mean, who does that? Who? My father just totally, he almost ruined my high school experience, and I was determined to have a really positive high school experience, and somehow I managed to do that with boys from other schools. I had to. I couldn't do it with any of the guys in my schools, in my school. I had the most atrocious reputation, and I had to go outside of my school to find decent guys to go out with, because everybody judged me and thought I was a certain way, and I've never been that way. I was just trying to survive. And yeah, and if you wondered why I had a straight D average in high school, it's because of this. It's because I couldn't do high school with what my father was working me to death. I guess, I had, as soon as I reached puberty, it was all the time, as soon as, because this was a moment in time that would never return. And I was only going to be going through puberty a certain length of time, right? So he had to get as much out of my puberty as possible. I guess he got paid a lot of money for me. I don't know. I never saw a penny. So I don't think that makes me a prostitute. If I don't see a penny, and I would never take it if it was offered to me. You know what I mean? I'm not, that's a slave, okay? It's not, anyway, I was used and abused. Simple as that. And in today's world, I don't think a father would get away with that. I mean, my father was vicious. He pushed it to the max. He went way over the max. And because I'm so resilient and amazing, I mean, there were people who told him he had to stop. He was pushing me so hard. And there were people who knew me, and they're like, okay, she needs a break. You need to give her a break. Because my father didn't know how to stop. He was like a railroad train, out of control in those days. And forever with me when it came to me. And that's something my family, I don't know. I guess I should say my stepmother doesn't understand. I mean, she's still in La La Land. She thinks that she was married to some gentle, sweet man. That was the only personality he showed her, I guess. I don't know. I mean, she's in serious denial. She thinks I'm the criminal, speaking such bad things about my father, who was such a good man. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was a good side of him. I'm not denying that. He could be a very gentle, sweet man, especially as he got older. I know that is the case. I didn't have a lot of access to him as he got older, and maybe that those more vicious personalities receded as he got older because he wasn't around me. I mean, if I had been around, it might have stimulated those other personalities, and then, you know, more. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. The last time I saw my father in person was 1998. And the last time I spoke to him was 2009. And I'd be interested in knowing how he evolved after that point. You know, I'm sure he got to be a better person as time went on, because that part of him wasn't stimulated anymore, you know. Okay, let's continue. I've been on here for a little over an hour. Let me take a bite. Now, I can't say remember, I should say, eating bagels as a young child, but I'll officially say that it was my boyfriend, my sophomore year of high school, who introduced me to bagels. I mean, I might have eaten them as a young child, but I just don't remember. But he's the one that I remember officially introducing me to bagels. Okay. Bagels and cream cheese. I had never had cream cheese either. He was my Jewish boyfriend in high school who broke up with me because I was a Gentile, and his family wanted to, he was the last of his family name, his lineage, or his family name, and he had to keep the family name going. And you know, in the Jewish culture, the woman has to be of Jewish descent, because that's how they judge whether the children are Jewish or not. And I was a Gentile, so he had to break up with me, and it was devastating for me. And I was so disappointed that he didn't stand up to his family. You know, and I even offered to convert to Judaism, but that's not good enough for Jews. You know that, right? And he had to let me go. He had to honor the family line and the family name, and had to let the love of his life go. And it was really hard for him. It was really hard for me, but I was willing to, you know, I was, you know, I tell you, when I have a relationship with someone, I fall deeply in love, and I want to marry them always and forever. And I mean, he was such an ideal man in so many ways. And, you know, he worked, he had money, he had his own money. He worked at James Way, which was like Woolworths. You know, he was blue collar, you know, from Heightstown, which is not Princeton. And he treated me like a lady. I mean, that set the stage for all of my relationships, honestly. He treated me like such a lady. He'd take me out every weekend. We'd go to the beach. We did all kinds of things. We had so much fun. We went out for like almost a year. And then his family put pressure on him to break it off with me because I was a Gentile. And a Gentile could not give birth to his children. I mean, we were 17 years old. I mean, let us break up naturally. Let it just evolve naturally. I mean, the likelihood of us getting married after he goes away to college and we're separated and we meet other people, it's pretty minimal. I mean, it only becomes a major thing, you know, later on when you're done with college and you're going to settle down. You know, it's only then that, you know, when you're in high school, you're finishing up high school. I just don't understand why a family would ever put pressure on their son. I mean, because he wanted to marry me. We were committed. We were going to get married. But they had to, I guess they had to nip that in the bud. Well, I'm pretty sure it was another family. We were in we met in Alateen because my mother was in AA. That's where I met him. I'm pretty sure there was another family. There was a girl who had an intense crush on him, but he was never interested in her. Okay, and then I came along in Alateen, and he and I went out, and I you know, their families were close, and you know, this girl wanted to marry him, and he wasn't interested in her, but she dreamed of that, I guess, and I now know because I reconnected with her in modern times, and I kind of she told me how close the families were, and you know, I kind of put it together. Her family, you know, being so close to his family, put pressure. I remember him telling me about it too, that they wanted him to go out with her and he wasn't interested, and I'm like, really? And yeah, her mother was always calling, and that was their plan, and I guess that's why so much pressure was put on him to break it off with me, because her daughter wanted to go out with him, and you know, but he never married her. He went away to college and met somebody over there and married you know, he married a fine Jewish woman who is very abusive, and now he's just like my father in the CIA, you know, in finance, and what a waste. Another one bites the dust. He has a son who is actually my genetic son. He was brought to my house when I was married to conceive his children, but his son has dark eyes and he and I both have light eyes, and I don't think we would have naturally conceived any such son. But I've been told that is my son. So genetically speaking, I mean, I didn't raise him. I've never met him. And, you know, his wife gave birth and, you know, is his mother. I'm certainly not. But genetically speaking, I am. And, yeah. Yeah, that was a big disappointment to me that he didn't have the courage to stand up to his family. I understand when you come from a family who treats you lovingly. I mean, it wasn't perfect in his family. Oh, no, it certainly wasn't. There were a lot of problems there. But, but it certainly was a more loving environment, a more supportive is really the right term, than anything I received in the environment of my family. So, you know, I guess there's a lot of pressure when you have a family that has always supported you and wants the best for you, even if they're imperfect and have harmed you in some other ways. There's always that pressure to please them and, you know, be a good son, I guess. But it was a big disappointment when he chose his family over me, because we were so in love with each other. And he almost ended up committing suicide after I started going out with somebody else. And, you know, he was the one that broke up with me, and I had no choice. I wanted to marry him. I was committed to him. I would have remained faithful to him, everything. But he was the one that ditched me, and it was really hard for me. I was devastated for a long time. But I was like, well, you know, it's meant to be, I guess. And I haven't gone out with I wanted to go out with a preppy guy, and, you know, he was like blue collar, and I was like, you know, I guess it's meant for me to go out with a preppy guy, but the preppy guy was the one that destroyed my life. Yeah, so, yeah, I would have been better off with with this guy, the Jewish guy, but, you know, he didn't have the courage to do what was right, you know, for himself. And, you know, but I now realize in adulthood, I realized it was that girl who wanted to go out with him so bad. It was her family that had pressured his family to do that so she could go out with him. But he was never going to go out with her. And, I mean, she's a very attractive woman. She's very multi-talented. I mean, I don't know. She was just really focused on him. And I guess she had a lot more support than I ever did. And, you know, families worked, you know, her family promoted her, you know, and got his family to do that to me. I guess it liberated me, but I think it's really sad. And she ended up, it's so funny, we were all in Alateen, and we were, you know, everybody, you know, the reason why kids go into Alateen is so they don't become the alcoholics their parents were, right? I mean, their parents are in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and they bring their kids into Alateen so that they don't become alcoholics like their parents, right? You know, Alateen is supposed to educate you, and, you know, and you interact with other kids that are educated about the, you know, the problems of alcoholism, etc., the risks and how to avoid those risks, etc., etc. And it's so funny. I mean, she was such a star in so many ways, you know, this girl. And she became an alcoholic herself, I guess, to get attention. I kind of feel like that was why she did that, to get attention. But none of us were supposed to become alcoholics. And if anyone was going to become one, it would have been me, right? Never did. I never, it was my brother who got into drugs, not me. I mean, I lightly experimented. Sure. And it was my brother who was trying to get me into drugs. He was the one that helped me experiment lightly. I didn't smoke pot, but a handful of times my whole life, you know. I never really liked pot. Didn't do anything for me. The drug that I really enjoyed, I refused to do anything chemical at a certain point, but it was mushrooms. I thought it was like a spiritual experience you had when you took mushrooms. I found them very healing, you know. They weren't really a drug. They were like medicine. That's how I saw mushrooms. And now they have drug treatment programs. I mean, not drug treatment, but they have treatment programs for people who have depression and other issues. They go on supervised mushroom trips. I mean, you know, it is medicine. Mushrooms are medicine. I know they are. And that was what I loved about them. And I felt like they healed me. I might have tried them 5 times. And then after age 25, I never did drugs again. You know, it was just a light experimentation here and there. My ex-husband, you know, I tried cocaine. I liked cocaine, but it always made me crash, and I'd be crying and sobbing afterwards. And yeah, I mean, my ex-husband was a drug dealer, you know. He used to, you know, but he told me, oh no, I'm not going to let you try this ever again, you know, because the pure stuff really, like, affected me too severely. I just crash and I'd be sobbing and sobbing. He's like, I can't do this. I can't give this to you again. You know, he had the stuff that before they mixed it with anything, you know, the stuff from Colombia, and he'd transport it, and I made him stop, you know. He was a criminal, and I thought that I had changed him, but he kept up his criminal ways behind my back, and I found out later. And, you know, I broke up with him because he wasn't faithful. I divorced him because he wasn't faithful to me, because I was a young woman, and, you know, young women think that men are faithful, can be faithful like women, and it's just not true. I know there's not a faithful man in existence. But when I was young, I still believed that men could be faithful, and if they loved you, they would be faithful. And my ex-husband cheated on me like every other man that I've ever gone out with and ever been with. And that's why I divorced him. But, you know, it was later that I found out what a criminal he was. And that would be the reason why I would divorce him today. I, wouldn't ever want to be married to a criminal. And he robbed banks, everything. It was really bad. I never saw a penny of any of it. We had to pretend our poverty was a cover for him, and his, and it was with, what's his name? Ice-T. Ice-T was one of the guys he robbed banks with in New York before he was famous. And the statute of limitations is passed, so, and he came out on a talk show and started talking about it. Didn't mention names, of course. And I was like, oh my God. And I remember meeting him and everything. But yeah, my ex-husband kept me out of it. He protected me. And thank goodness, I wasn't involved in any of that. And it was such a shock when I found out what he was doing behind my back. I know I went way off topic, but I do believe that this manifesto is intended to get me talking about my life. I guess I need to clearly identify who I truly am. I don't know, a lot of people don't believe that I'm the right Claire Elliott, or that they think I'm some kind of imposter. I'm not really sure why I'm being prompted to talk about all these issues. I mean, I'm just randomly telling you what's coming up for me as I read this. And of course that leads to another topic, another topic. I guess it all started with me eating this bagel. All right. I will continue now. All right. So, okay, so we're coming on an hour and a half. We've been on live for an hour and a half, almost. Okay. He's talking about the dance, his first dance. When I got there, Robert Morgan saw me and asked me if I wanted to. Okay, we already read that. Okay, so that was the only time in his entire life that he would have a satisfying experience with girls. It was at that dance or at that time period. Yeah, it was at the dance. At that one dance. That was the most satisfying experience Elliot Rodger's ever had with girls. Wow, that's pretty sad. And it sounds like it was a really good evening, so why didn't it continue into other good evenings? Let's see. Halloween of this year marked the last time I would ever go trick-or-treating. After this year, okay, so he's in 6th grade. I was still trick-or-treating in 7th and 8th grade. For fun, as a joke. After this year, I would be too old for it. Mother took us to the Limelsons, and I decided not to dress up in any costume. I went as myself, sporting my black Pinecrest sweater. As it was my last time trick-or-treating, it would be the last time I would have any sort of fun on a Halloween. And I did have a lot of fun. It was nice to go out collecting candy with James and Noah like we had been doing for several years past. So as it was my last time trick-or-treating. Okay. My father cut off a portion of child support he had been paying my mother, which forced my mother to move house. That's too bad. I mean, he's only in 7th grade, right? No, he's in 6th grade. So why is he cutting off a portion of child support? He's still making lots of money. Why would he do that? I mean, Georgia is younger and he's in 6th grade. Okay. Which forced mother my mother to move house. We moved to a small blue house on Glade Avenue in Canoga Park. I guess that's the valley. I didn't like Canoga Park at all. It was a very ugly and low-class area to the north there's a typo, it says of Woodland Hills, and I felt it demeaning that we would have to live there during Mother's Week. That's so ridiculous. What a snooty attitude. Oh my goodness. Well, I know I had kind of a snooty attitude when I lived in Princeton. I was very proud to be from Princeton, and but I wasn't too good to go out with a guy from Hightstown. I mean, my other boyfriend was from Yardley, which was a cool town actually, and he went to a private school, so that was different. See, I'd never, after going out with my first boyfriend who was, from Hightstown, I kind of wanted the revert, I needed to go out with a preppy guy that went to a private school. I did. I had never gone out with a guy like that. I needed to do that. But I don't think I would have, been this bad, is what I'm trying to say. Obviously, I wasn't if I went out with a guy from Hightstown and I was committed to marrying him. I really missed him a lot after he removed me from, let me go, whatever he did, cut me off. I know my new boyfriend thought that I was still focused on him, and I was. I mean, it took me a long time to transfer my loyalty to the new boyfriend, and once I did, the new boyfriend really let me down because he wasn't my first boyfriend. He wasn't the original boyfriend. I guess I had built up all these feelings, in a year-long relationship, and then almost year-long. And then, and I kind of transferred them over to the new relationship, but I was in a relationship with a boy, really. He wasn't as mature as my first boyfriend, and of course he wasn't as old either. It was the recipe for disaster, and they wanted me to have major heartbreak because, I wasn't going to grow up in a balanced way if I had only positive experiences. And I know, they wanted me to have some obstacles so I would get stronger and expand my horizons, Okay. The house did have some upsides. It had 4 bedrooms and a bigger living room than Mother's old house. My new room was a lot larger than my old one. And of course, my mother always had her own ways of making everything better. She sounds like a really nice mother. I would still enjoy my time at Mother's small house more than my time at Father's big Woodland Hills house. Okay. Oh, hi, Wispy. Hi, Wispy. Wispy. How you doing? How you doing? Doing okay? You doing okay? Just hanging out? He's so beautiful, isn't he? Okay. Beautiful. Wait. Okay. Along with this move, there came a new change in our rotation schedule. My parents decided we would stay at our mother's house more instead of switching 1 week, 1 week. Mother would have us for all of the weekdays, and we would go to Father's on the weekends when he was in town. Only when he was in town, okay? Around the same time that my mother moved, James's family moved as well to another Limousin-owned house in the Palisades. It's so strange. They would only remain in this house for a very brief period because a tragic event would soon occur in James's family. One day at school, I was sitting in my class when I was suddenly called to the office. My mother was there waiting to pick me up. I got into her car, and the three of us drove out of my school and parked on the side of Shoup Avenue. The three of us. I assume Georgia was with them, right? Or was it James? She told us the dire news. James's mother, Kim Ellis, had passed away from breast cancer. I cried for a bit. Kim was a very kind-hearted person and the mother of my best friend. She had been suffering from breast cancer for several years, but I never thought she would die from it. I immediately thought of how James must be feeling. He just lost his own mother. It made me think of how horrible I would feel if the same thing happened to my own mother. Just the thought alone filled me with pain. So he has empathy. He has empathy. There was to be a get-together of friends at James's house that night in honor of Kim. On the way, I thought about how I would approach James on the subject. Okay, so I'm thinking it must have been Georgia that was in the car with them, making 3 people in the car. The amount of grief he must be feeling, I couldn't even imagine it. The last similar experience was the death of my grandfather, and I was only 4 years old then. When we arrived, I looked for James and found him sitting in his room. I gently offered my deepest condolences for his loss. He remained very strong, obviously hiding his emotions. He looked very sad, in an extremely stoic sort of way. He told me he fully accepted what had happened, that his mother was dead, and that was the end of it. That was all we spoke on the matter. That's not healthy, probably. We tried not to think about it for the rest of the night, and later on I played tag in his backyard with him and some of his friends. I remained very shy during my 6th grade year and would always be labeled as a quiet kid. I wasn't able to establish any friends that I could have play dates with, so the only play dates I had was with old friends from Topanga Elementary. This filled in the social void, and I was content with it. I tried my best to improve my social situation during school time. A few girls continued to pay attention to me, saying hi as I walked by them, and occasionally giving me hugs, but I felt bitter at the fact that I wasn't able to truly hang out with them like the popular boys were doing. But they still paid attention to you. It doesn't sound too bad. In order to not be seen as a complete loner at school, I ended up making friends with a kid named Connor Hanrahan. Connor was not a popular kid because girls didn't like him. Despite this, he was one of the most pompous assholes of the school, even more so than any of the most popular boys. Connor was a true bully. Sounds like he had a bad influence on him. I started hanging out with him during recess and lunch, and we made a few jokes with each other and had a few good laughs, but he would always push me around and act tough. I was so timid back then that I didn't care. I just wanted someone to hang out with. Okay. When I stayed back after school one day, my mother saw me with Connor when she came to pick me up. She had been concerned about me not making any new friends at Pinecrest, and I suppose she was relieved to see me with a friend. She invited Connor to come over to my house, which he accepted. I was a bit hesitant to invite anyone from Pinecrest to my mother's house because it was located in Canoga Park, a bad area, and most of the kids at Pinecrest were upper middle class who would look down on me for living there. But I couldn't back out of this once my mother invited Connor. He came over and all went well. We played a few video games for a couple of hours. But after that play date, he would always rip on me for living in a poor house. Uh-oh. Great. He would also tell other kids at Pinecrest about it. This infuriated me to no end, and I would keep proclaiming that my father lives in a prestigious 3-story house in the Woodland Hills in the Woodland Hills Heights. I became vehemently obsessed with proving to Connor and everyone else that I wasn't poor. I went so far as to bring pictures of my father's house to school. I even considered inviting some people over to father's house, but remembered my vow of never doing that due to the possibility that another incident would happen with Sumaya like the one that occurred years ago. It was at 11 years old when I first started using the internet on a regular basis. The internet did not exist when I was 11. Oops, wait. The internet was still considered a new phenomenon at the time. Before 11, I roughly knew how to browse websites and use email, but once I fully immersed myself in it, it really fascinated me. The popular social networking tool at that period was AOL Instant Messenger, or AIM. Yeah, I remember that. I made my first AIM account on my mother's computer, and he left out me have 1 hour a day to explore it. I joined a few chat rooms. The prospect of talking to strangers from a computer was new and astonishing to me. Towards the end of 6th grade, I still hadn't made a group of friends who I could see outside of school. The only social interactions I had outside of school were play dates with old friends from Topanga every now and again. Joining chat rooms through AOL temporarily filled the social void for a few weeks. This will definitely not be the first time I would try to fill in that void with the internet. Once I established myself in chat rooms, I made a few friends who I instant messaged frequently. Most of them were in middle school and some were in high school. I also talked to a few people I knew from Pinecrest over AIM. One friend I met through a chat room suddenly emailed me pictures of beautiful naked girls, telling me to check this out. When I looked at the pictures, I was shocked beyond words. I had never seen what beautiful girls looked like naked, and the sight filled me with strong and overwhelming emotions. I didn't know what was happening to me. Was it the first inkling of sexual desire in my body? I was traumatized. My childhood was fading away. Ominous fear swept over me, and I stopped talking to that person. As the 6th grade year came to a close, I felt dissatisfied and insignificant. Indeed, a whole new world had opened up before me, and I had no idea how to prevail in it. I still wanted to live as a child. I never established any proper friends at Pinecrest, and the only playdate I had was the one with Connor that my mother arranged, and that turned out to be a disaster for me. My mother and father both showed concern that I wasn't making any friends, but because I still saw some friends from Topanga, they didn't make a big deal out of it. Okay. I consider 6th grade to be the better year out of the 3 years I would spend in middle school. Yeah. Girls actually paid attention to me. They knew who I was, and I didn't feel like I was completely invisible. I was extremely shy with girls and could barely have a conversation with them, but I still interacted with girls more during this year than I would for any following year. The cool kids treated me nicely despite my reputation as the quiet kid. I always felt like a loser compared to them, and I hated them for it, though I still wanted their approval. I wanted to be one of them. I wanted to be their friend. The closest I came to truly being one of them was when Vinny and Robert both invited me to their birthday parties, which were only a couple weeks apart at the very end of the school year. Both parties were at Skate Park. I hadn't been to Skate Lab for about a year, and when I walked in, all of the memories of going there with James filled my mind. I hadn't even skateboarded for a while, but after a few minutes on the ramps, my ability came back like magic. They were all quite impressed. See, if he just kept going with that, he could have been really good, and I'm sure he already was good. I bet they thought I would end up sucking at it. I was happy to prove them wrong. Indeed, 6th grade was the peak of my life at Pinecrest. It would only go downhill from there. Oh. My mother bought me a brand new video game console, the Xbox. I heard a lot of kids talking about how great the Xbox was at school, so I was really eager to have one. I liked the Xbox much more than the PlayStation 2. The graphics were better and the games were more to my taste. With the Xbox, I got the game Halo. At first, I found Halo to be very difficult and I gave up on it a few times, but I had no idea that Halo would soon become one of my favorite video game series that I ever played. One of the most favorite video game series that I ever played. Okay, whatever. Something is wrong about that phrasing. I was extremely happy and relieved when summer came. Middle school was much more stressful than elementary school, both socially and academically. Summer would prove a well-needed break from all of it. I started seeing some old friends from Topanga more frequently. Among those were John, Joe, Glenn, and Charlie Converse. Charlie wasn't really one of my main friends at Topanga Elementary. I had a few play dates with him here and there, but not that many. It was only until after 5th grade graduation that our real friendship began. He always had a charming and humble personality, and he was well liked by everyone at Topanga. He came over to my mother's house a few times after I got my Xbox, where he tried to help me get past the hardest level on Halo. John, Joe, and Charlie were very close friends with each other, and eventually I would start to see them at the same time. John Joe invited me to his father's apartment in Hollywood for a sleepover. I found his apartment to be very dingy, but I had so much fun that I didn't even care. He lived across the street from the huge Scientology building. How interesting. Yes, Scientology. I have intimate links with Scientology. I've mentioned them before. Daddy wrote Dianetics, and I helped create all of their... I'm forgetting the term they use, for their little therapeutic, what are they called? Scientologists know what I'm talking about. Those little therapeutic things they do. Anyway, I helped develop them with Daddy when I was a baby. And, because I was being subjected to so many drugs, that's where all their, cleansing programs come from. Daddy helping me cleanse my body so I, to help me detoxify. Assists, is that what they're called? Assists. And, I'm a volunteer minister. Actually, as an adult, I trained to be that, and I am officially a volunteer minister. And you learn how to, I don't know, you do something, it's not really a massage. It's like helping your body reset and, reset. It's like resetting your body. It's an assist. Yeah, I believe that's what it is. And yeah, Daddy developed that with me as his guinea pig, because I was going through so much trauma, and it helped me reset. It helped reset my body and mind, and that's where that comes from. When L. Ron Hubbard was one of my genetic fathers, and I spent a lot of personal time with him on the Apollo in his cabin. He was a mess. He was a very depressed man, and nobody knew how depressed he was. He was not the creator of, he was not the author of Dianetics, and, everything is, comes from Nichiren Buddhism. And he wasn't, he was just our poster boy. And because he was one of my genetic fathers, and I guess he was a science fiction writer, and I guess Daddy encouraged him to create all the lies that are Scientology today. And I'm, when he died, he left everything to me, but, we all know how that turned out. And some kid that showed up later, way after me, I was born in 1965, and I don't know, some kid in the 70s grew up to become David Miscavige, and he's like, holding Scientology hostage, and, you know, when it's, you know, it belongs to Daddy and me. All right, so that's all I'll say about Scientology now. You know, all that money is mine, and David Miscavige acts like it's his, and it's not. He's just some punk that showed up, who grew up in a family that happened to dabble in Scientology, and he became a Scientologist. He grew up, you know, traveling on the Apollo, and, you know, it was like a torture chamber. You know, it wasn't a church, it was a torture chamber. You know, Daddy's teachings have nothing to do with what they do in Scientology. It's like, you know, Scientology has become synonymous with abuse, and, you know, it has, you know, L. Ron Hubbard was not a healthy person, and what Daddy allowed him to do was not in tune with Nichiren Buddhism or the truth. And I guess I don't know why he was allowed to do what he did, and why so many people have had to suffer. But yeah, Scientology is like a dirty word now. I don't even think Daddy came up with that term. That was something that L. Ron Hubbard came up with. Dianetics was Daddy's term. And I'm really sad about Scientology. I don't really like to think about it or talk about it. It's part of it, and I consider it to be part of Nichiren Buddhism, part of the Department of Empowerment, once it's finally transferred to me, the way it should have been legally done an eternity ago. And bravo to all those people, all these people on YouTube exposing the truth. You know, you don't have to be scared. David Miscavige doesn't know what's going on. He's a stupid idiot, and he needs to step aside and allow the truth to take control. And thank you for propagating the truth. The truth will prevail. All right, so Scientology building, where was that mentioned? Okay, so his friend John Joe, his father's apartment was across the street from the huge Scientology building. We got together with a group of his friends and snuck into the building's courtyard at night to play hide and seek tag. This was the first time I had been out having fun with a group of kids my age without any adult supervision. It was very amusing. When we went back to his apartment, we played Conker's Bad Fur Day on the Nintendo 64. The Nintendo 64 was a very old console at this point in time, especially after I now had an Xbox and a PS2. But I was entertained by Conker's Bad Fur Day so much that I asked my mother to buy it for me the next day. James Ellis moved yet again to another house in the Palisades. After the death of his mother, James's father, Artie, quickly made the decision to move again. Artie rented a small house on Temecula Street near the renowned Palisades Bluffs. There they would remain for a very long time, and all of the most significant experiences I would have with James in the future would take place there. At this time, though, I wasn't seeing James that much. We slowly drifted apart after we lost our common interest in skateboarding. We still considered each other friends, and we would still see each other occasionally, almost as a courtesy, but our friendship would be at a standstill during our middle school years. I was enjoying a lovely summer, but suddenly my mother said that I had to go to summer camp at Pinecrest. This was a decision she made with my father because they thought it would be healthy for me. I didn't like this one bit. It was a last-minute decision. One moment I was relaxing and enjoying my summer break. The next, my mother is waking me up early to take me to my first day of camp at Pinecrest. Gratefully, summer camp would only last for 4 weeks. Summer camp at Pinecrest was located at the elementary school section, and I recognized my old kindergarten class. It was a mix of middle school and elementary school kids, and I made a few friends with some kids who were younger than me. At this camp, an incident happened that would scar me for life. Uh-oh. The first time that I was treated badly by a girl occurred at this camp. I was innocently playing with the friends I made, and they were tickling me, something people always did because I was very ticklish. I accidentally bumped into a pretty girl the same age as me, and she got very angry. She cursed at me and pushed me, embarrassing me in front of my friends. I didn't know who this girl was. She was only at Pinecrest for summer camp, but she was very pretty, and she was taller than me. I immediately froze up and went into a state of shock. One of my friends asked me if I was okay, and I didn't answer. I remained very quiet for the rest of the day. I couldn't believe... Okay, so this is what scarred him for life. This one incident of a very rude, pretty girl pushing him and humiliating him. That's it? I couldn't believe what had happened. Cruel treatment from women is 10 times worse than from men. It made me feel like an insignificant, unworthy little mouse. There's the word mouse. And I think of David's mother's maiden name, Musette. Mouse is in the name Musette. I felt so small and vulnerable. I couldn't believe that this girl was so horrible to me, and I thought that it was because she viewed me as a loser. That was the first experience of female cruelty I endured. Oh my God, it was a moment in time. Kids are cruel, I agree, but come on. And it traumatized me to no end. I guess he's just so used to being treated so well at all times. It made me even more nervous around girls, and I would be extremely weary and cautious of them from that point on. I guess he's hypersensitive, but come on. I mean, that's life. Get used to it. Before summer camp ended, I saw that same girl hanging out with Orrin Axe a few times. Orrin Axe was one of the popular kids in my grade. I hated Orrin so much when I saw him with her. It made me feel so inferior. It didn't have to. And that this girl was mean to me, and yet she liked Orrin. Hi, baby. Look at this little boy. Look at this little boy. See him? He's so cute. Where's his face? There's his face. Okay. Thankfully, Orrin wouldn't be returning to Pinecrest for 7th grade, and I would never see him again. I wonder what became of him. I bet he lived a good life. Everybody had it better than him. Oh. I felt relieved when summer camp ended. That experience with the mean girl ruined it for me. Hell, it ruined a part of my life. You allowed a rude girl to ruin your life like that? That seems so ridiculous. Whenever I think about summer camp, I would think about that girl and my emotions would flare up. Oh. You can do something else with those emotions. You don't have to let her control you like that. Okay. Let me turn this. Let's see. Okay. I felt relieved Okay. Okay, that I just read that. My 12th birthday followed. I decided not to do anything for it. Mother took me and my sister out to a Japanese restaurant to celebrate it. 12 seemed like a big number to me back then. One more year and I would be a teenager. It was hard to believe. Yeah.
Oh, what is that? What is that? I like to show you on camera. I think you're cute.
12 years old. Okay, what time is it? It's 3:30, so it's been 2 hours. Okay, I do have to take care of Elizabeth, and my phone is ringing, but I don't really answer it anymore. 12 years old. Should I, let me see where we are. Okay, I'm on page 32 of 141. How am I going to read all this? Oh my God. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I've made some progress, not enough. Okay, so this is age 12. Look at how much detail. 13. Okay, and then it changes. Let's see, what's this? Stuck in the void. Okay, this is when all this stuff happens, huh? And then 8th grade. God, it's like it goes. I mean, I appreciate that he's trying to document it. He's very thorough, I guess. It's just taking so long. 15. 16. 17. Part 5, hope and hopelessness. 17 and 19, 18. Okay, so 18. A lot happened when he was 18, huh? Okay, 19. This is only halfway through. A little more than halfway through. Wow. This is a book. It's a book. Okay, part 6, Santa Monica. Endgame. This is the end of his life. 20. Yeah, a lot happened when he was 20. Oh my gosh. Okay. 21. A lot happened. 22. Okay. And there's the epilogue. Okay. So that's the end of 22. And then the epilogue is the rest. Okay. There aren't really 141 pages. There's 137 pages, and the rest are blank. Okay. All right, are we at 18? Oops, careful, baby. You all right? Boy. Yeah, I'm past 13, right? Or yeah, I'm saying 18. I meant, did I mean 13? Yeah, that's where I was. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out where I was. I guess I was at 12 years old. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so it's now 3:36 p.m. on the East Coast. I kind of want to keep going. There's no interruptions. I feel like, I guess maybe I should end it here because I need to check on Elizabeth, even though she's not calling me or even making any noise. I do think I need a break, and maybe all of you do too. So I'm going to end it here. Age 12. We're at 12 years old. 10 more years to go. Okay. All right. An epilogue on top of that. Okay. I'll see you in number 6. And